How did one state survive the collapse of the Rust Belt? Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Indiana. In Midwestern state after Midwestern state, you hear the same story. The factories left, the jobs are gone, things are worse than they used to be. But in Wisconsin, this changes. Rundown strip malls turn into thriving downtowns, poverty gives way to prosperity, and abandoned steel mills transform into expanding factories. In Wisconsin, the Rust Belt ends, and in this video, we explain why. Now, southeastern Wisconsin still feels like the Rust Belt. Take Milwaukee. While its downtown and suburbs are thriving, its northern side is full of dilapidated neighborhoods that once housed workers who worked at factories and breweries. Industry has largely left the city, and residents are paying the price.
Late 80s, early 90s, a lot of those manufacturing industries left, and it left this part of the city with nothing to replace it.
Back there was an abandoned factory or a rundown factory. Over here looks like another factory.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this is where a lot of people worked, right? In the community, they worked around here?
Yes, and you know, you didn't have to travel far.
Yeah.
You know, you went right to work, and people had boats, they had motorcycles, you know, in addition to their regular everyday vehicles.
Hundreds of people are losing their jobs, so what do? They resort to, I'm gonna get it any way I can.
Like the youth, they need blue collar skills. They need to get exposure to that more than free stuff. Because when they get exposed to like trades, that can change the whole like dynamics in the community. So we don't have a lot of
we don't have that anymore.
blue collar skills. So that's the decline of people.
Yeah.
In nearby Kenosha, it's a similar story. Plus, the city continues to suffer from the devastation of the 2020 riots. So online there's a map here of where all the rioting took place in Kenosha. This right here is Car Source, and you can see here what this is saying is there are cars lit on fire here in this parking lot. You can see this business still has not come back, just an empty parking lot of what was a car dealership.
And that's what the one guy in the front yard told us, is he went around downtown and he saw a bunch of cars lit on fire, so this is probably where it was.
So now we're gonna go drive up this way where you can see a whole batch of things. We're gonna go find some business owners to try to talk to there on what looks to be 10th Avenue.
This building right here, the Bell Telephone Building, right on the strip, affected by the Kenosha riots, vacant. You see a lot of empty lots.
Windows got broken, front and back. They stole an ATM. You do not just go into a business and take an ATM. You came here with a truck or a van. You had a dolly and a ramp, and you had more than one people with the expertise on how to go about doing that. People, I think they'll call that Tifa or whatever, but the people that don't belong here came here to raise a ruckus. They were not worried about Jacob Blake or anything that happened to him. It was all political. They obviously didn't care about this town because they're the ones that burnt it.
What was it like in 2020, August 2020?
Like when all that like riot stuff was going on?
Right, yeah.
Well, when it was like, it was kind of scary at times because you didn't know like what to really expect.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot going on, like houses was burning down, places was on fire. But it was like more so people trying to get their expression and opinion across to show them that, like, you know, we're done with this, we're tired, because, you know, this been going on, a lot of brutality, police brutality. So they was more so they trying to get their point across.
What was that point?
Black Lives Matter.
To the north or west of here, though, it is a totally different story. In over a dozen counties, more than 25% of jobs are in manufacturing. Real quickly, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe. Our next video will be from Detroit. After that, we have a series of reports coming from New Mexico. Don't miss it. Some of the best reporting we've done. And where there's not manufacturing, there are other industries. So how did this happen? We learned of 3 reasons. First, our universities. Wisconsin has 13 public universities distributed across the state, making education affordable and accessible. That's helped to train managers, fuel new industries, and bring jobs to towns that may otherwise lack them. Eau Claire, for example, was a logging center and then a tire one. Those industries left, but now there's a university.
My family has like no educational background. I mean, like, I'm like the first, me and my brother, I would say, are like the first in our family, like, generation where we're actually trying to make a difference.
Across the Rust Belt are empty cities. Wisconsin faces the opposite problem. Excess demand has pushed up its housing prices at one of the highest rates in the country. Madison, home of the main UW campus, has too many people. Construction is everywhere, businesses are opening, and things are booming.
All right, so we are walking down State Street in Madison, Wisconsin. Frost, tell us a fact or two, would you?
Okay, this is one of the birthplaces of progressive politics, literally for the whole world. and it comes down to a guy named Fighting Bob La Follette. This guy, he was the governor of Wisconsin. That right over there is the capital of Wisconsin. And this guy was one of the leaders of the progressive movement. He kind of put in the first progressive policies in the US, which meant, you know, reduced working hours, regulations on child labor, you know, stuff like free education, all this. When he took power, they enacted these policies, and then to kind of perpetuate them across the country, they created universities, like the University of Wisconsin at Madison. So it's not by chance that the biggest university or the most well-known university in Wisconsin is just a mile from the capital. Then there's agriculture. Wisconsin is an agricultural powerhouse. It's home to 59,000 farms, dominates cheese production, and leads in meat and vegetable processing. Dairy farmers like Jack Carnegie have been working the farms for years.
Yeah, we're the Silicon Valley of ag production in the world. Graduated 1969 from UW-Madison, took over my dad's farm halfway between Milwaukee and Chicago. Could not stay there in the early 70s because of high land prices and urban sprawl. And so we found this farm up here that an older farmer was retiring. And so we've been here just over 50 years now.
Wow.
And raised 3 kids here. I work for my son now, who owns the farm.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yet Carnegie and other farmers told us that things are getting harder as big farms get bigger and young people leave the farm life behind.
But,
is it hard to find workers out here?
Yeah, because they can get a higher paying, cleaner job someplace else. You know, and the Hispanics, you know, it's harder to get them to come and milk on the farms. Same reason, they can get a higher paying, cleaner job someplace else.
One thing we've heard repeatedly around the state is that it's a lot harder to run a small dairy farm.
Yes, it is.
Why is that?
The same, like we don't see the neighborhood grocery stores and little hardware stores and little car dealers. It's the economy of scale of the big car dealers, Walmart, things like that. And so they're able to spread their costs over more units. Our advantage has been efficiency and automation that's allowed us to stay in business. 24 years ago, this was the first farm in the United States to have robotic milking. The majority of the farm subsidies go to the great big farms. You know, like 5% of the farms get 75% of the funding,
oh my God.
which is really stupid. So
really?
I've been quite involved in politics over the years. I was on our state board of agriculture, and you know, and so that's how I got to the Netherlands. I've been to the Soviet Union twice, and Poland, and Japan, and saw agriculture around the world. And I'm glad I'm farming.
I was gonna say, what place do you think does it best in the world?
Right here. Yeah. We're the Silicon Valley of ag production in the world because of the infrastructure and support system we have.
So Wisconsin has universities in agriculture, but are the factories still around? Yes, they are. Compared to 1970, Michigan has 30% fewer manufacturing jobs. Wisconsin, by contrast, has roughly the same. All over the state, we saw the kinds of plants that are idle in nearby states active here. So behind us is a power station. Over there is a metals plant. Over there is a tile factory. Over there is a paper factory. And then beyond that is a chemicals plant.
So working class jobs like this in factories of all kinds, mainly built around the paper industry and other manufacturing jobs, that is the opportunity here.
Yeah, this is nothing like Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, you see this kind of thing just sitting there abandoned. Here, that's not the case. So what explains this? Economists have done a lot of research, and here are some of their conclusions. Unlike Pennsylvania or Michigan, Wisconsin didn't rely on steel or cars. Those industries faced no competition, then rapidly became uncompetitive when they did. Wisconsin's laws and workers are also more flexible. As manufacturing slowed in the 70s and 80s, workers held fewer strikes and were more willing to take pay cuts than in nearby states. They therefore faced fewer layoffs. Today, Wisconsin is a right-to-work state, meaning workers don't have to join unions, and so the state's unions are weaker. Of Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, only Wisconsin is right to work. That has put it in line with all the South, where factories have migrated since the 1970s. So on the one hand, that may have led to fewer benefits for workers. On the other hand, it seems like it's led to more jobs. Finally, Wisconsin companies adopted new technology faster than other Rust Belt states, keeping the companies more productive and profitable. Now, one effect of this is that there is more opportunity and less despair. We heard much less about drug overdoses in Wisconsin than we did in the Rust Belt. Still, Wisconsin is known as the drunkest state. By numerous stats, Appleton, population 100,000, is the drunkest city in the country. Drunkest city on a Friday night?
Let's go,
baby.
What could go wrong? Cheers. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like a milkshake.
We're asking people around here on why it's the drunkest city.
There ain't else to do here but go to the bar and meet up with people. 15 years old, people were saying like, you want a beer? Like that's how I offer you, like host you in my house. I wouldn't necessarily like drunk. Isn't necessarily a culture here. I would not say that. Nobody would. Because it really isn't. Having a beer is.
I love that. Dude, you just realize the most common answers we've gotten, we've asked so many people now, why does Appleton drink so much? And the most common ones are, there's nothing to do, it's cold. But the real one, I think, is they just love drinking.
Yeah.
They just love beer.
There is the drinking culture is baked into it.
It's baked into it.
Hey, why is Appleton such a drunk city?
They eat tortured cow, and alcohol is a problem.
Alcohol is a problem.
Alcohol is a problem.
Have you consumed any tonight, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been thinking.
Dude, you're looking good. Dude, this guy was ready for a camera.
He really is.
Let's go! Let's go, Appleton! Let's go, baby!
Fuck here.
What's up,
Circus.
It's pretty good.
Afro circus.
Of course, Wisconsin isn't perfect. Manufacturing hasn't grown quickly, incomes haven't kept up with rising property costs, and many areas remain poor. But compared to Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin is where the Rust Belt ends. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. Our next video is from Detroit. After that, we have a series coming from New Mexico. Make sure you don't miss it. Subscribe for more.